Okay, so anybody got a question or anything that they wanted to start off with this morning? Anything cooking out here besides eggs on the sidewalk? Caden. Morning, sir.
Morning. So at the end of Revelation, and I think it's chapter 21, when he's talking about the new heaven and the new earth, he says that there's no longer any sea. I was wondering what that means.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, sometimes sea means, just a general place where there's masses or anything. But I think there's certain spots in, I'm going to try to remember this. I'm supposed to carry this around, but, when you're trying to lead one of these, you got a lot of things going. So, Jane, you hold this, and when I step out here, you hand it to me. There you go. Okay. You got to know who you can trust. So, Revelation 21. Well, let's back up a little bit earlier. Revelation, and in chapters 4 and 5, you have a picture of the throne here, and you got the 24 elders on the throne. Okay, then as things progress, there's kind of a play within a play that goes on in the book of Revelation. And let's see here, where'd it go? Well, yeah, the 4-6 is where the throne is, and then I'm trying to find the next spot in here where I've got the sea of glass mixed with fire. I think that's chapter 14, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's chapter 15, Revelation 15. Okay, see, first of all, you got the throne, and you got that sea of glass, okay, all around the throne, okay? In chapter 15, in verse 2, I saw something like a sea of glass mixed with fire, and those who had been victorious over the beast and his image and the number of his name standing on the sea of glass, holding harps of God. Now, these would be the guys that are in paradise. See, these are the guys that have been victorious. In other words, they would be pretty clearly in what the scripture would call paradise in other places, okay? And then when you get to Revelation 20, in verse 13, it says, the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead which were in them. Okay, so it looks to me like the sea here in Revelation 20:13 is the same as the sea of glass in Revelation 20 and verse 15. Again, I can't prove any of this. This is just Wilson, looking at things and trying to sort things out, okay? Because some of this stuff you can't prove. Like I can prove Acts 2:38 or Acts 22:16. But this is a little bit different here. What we got, Bob? Keep going? Okay. So when he gets to Revelation 21 and verse 1, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The first heaven, the first earth passed away. There's no longer any sea. See, paradise is no more either. Okay, so the sea being paradise is as that follows through. I can't prove that. That's the Wilson look at it. So further questions on that, Caden? Okay. Great question. See, to me, that makes sense. But other thoughts or comments on that? Yeah, Gary? Oh, thank you. See, right?
I happen to have a handwritten note in my Bible on that Revelation, or actually, the Revelation 15 passage. And I handwrote it to get me over to Exodus 24. And this is when it says, then, beginning in verse 9, then Moses went up with Aaron, Nathan and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the God of Israel, and under his feet there appeared to be a pavement of sapphire, as clear as the sky itself.
Yep.
Same thing.
Same thing, yep, yep. Yep. Others? Okay. Other question this morning? Okay, no other questions this morning? Okay, well, we'll do a slide presentation then. And if Bob wants to, or Lydia, actually, it's a great team back there, by the way, and appreciate everything they do we get a lot of compliments all across the country and all across the world, actually, people who come in and watch the class and come in and watch the the assembly and stuff like that. So I mean, it's keeping a lot of people going, and so again, it's part of that teamwork thing. When everybody kind of plays their part, and good things happen. See, and okay, we'll see what we got here. Okay, so this is just a touch of review. I went back to Erasmus here. Erasmus, of course, is the Dutch humanist. Gutenberg, in 1452 to 1456, had invented the printing press. Okay, well, just to some degree, that just sitting there until Erasmus comes along in 1516, then he publishes the Greek New Testament and his Latin translation on the facing page. So one side's the Greek, the other side's the Latin, because the scholars are a little bit more familiar with Latin than they are Greek. Okay, so he doesn't publish the Vulgate. The one version that Gutenberg printed on the printing press was the Latin Vulgate. The Vulgate was translated into Latin in about 400 AD by a guy named Jerome. Okay, but the Vulgate text had been corrupted quite a bit. The Catholics were not particularly careful in doing their copying, so there's a lot of extra stuff and crept in. So what Erasmus had to do is he had to go back and he made a significant effort to get his paws on the Greek text, either loan or actually buy the Greek text that had been brought by the Orthodox monks into Western Europe. Remember, the Byzantium or Istanbul is falling to the Ottoman Turks, who are Muslim. Okay, and of course they're going to burn all the scriptures. So the monks figured that out, and they got the scrolls to the west. Okay, and so Erasmus made a significant effort to either have in his own possession or to be able to borrow those texts. And so he put those together to publish his own Greek text. And then, like I say, the Latin Vulgate was so corrupted, he did his own Latin translation. And that was on, think of the work here. Okay, so we're going to go back through and retranslate the entire New Testament and get it ready for publication along with the Greek New Testament on the other side. You just can't even imagine the amount of man hours that went into doing that, okay? Again, Erasmus was a humanist. Bob and I were joking. Bob says, yep, he's a humanist. And, I said, yeah, a Dutch humanist. And, I think, I can't remember exactly what Bob said. It was something pretty humorous, though, about some sort of a modern humanist. But humanist in those days just meant somebody that was for the good of the human race. And so he thought one of the best things you could do for the human race is get the Bible in Greek so that the scholars could translate it into their local languages, okay? So next slide. So as he put it, from the farmer to the weaver at the loom, okay? And so we talked a little bit about the Textus Receptus. That term actually wasn't applied until about 1636 by the Elsevier brothers. But it formed the basis for Martin Luther's translation, William Tyndale's. I talked a little bit about Francisco Scarina, Minsk, Belarus, about this same time. There's a tremendous movement here to take the Greek text and translate it into the local language. Next slide. So there's a copy. You can see here's the Greek on the left side, and then there's the Latin on the right side. Okay. Just side note, original Greek was right to left, like like Hebrew and the Arabic and a lot of the India languages. And in somewhere around about 600 BC, they switched it from left to right because they anticipated the coming of the computer age. And so, okay, next slide. So Martin Luther, of course, translates the New Testament into German in 1522. And this is, again, it's about 1517 when he nails his 95 Theses on the door of the Catholic Church building in Wittenberg and starts the Protestant Reformation. Basically, Luther was a prisoner in the castle of William of Saxony from that point on. Okay, next slide. Tyndale, of course, he's in England, and he translates the New Testament from Greek into English in 1525. Okay, so Luke. Yeah, okay, thank you.
So Erasmus was 1516? Is that what that said? And then 1522 was Luther's, and then so those guys got after it.
They did.
I mean, from that Greek text that Erasmus made available, these other guys got on it. And that's pretty quick timing, really. Yeah. Quick turnaround.
Yeah, see, like I say, Scarino was about the same time. I don't know who else. Yeah. Yeah. So, again, there's a lot of interest. See, there's a lot of interest. See, and so the movement is toward getting the Bible in the hands of the common people. And the movement is, to actually get back to the Bible way of doing things. Now, it's going to take hundreds of years for this to take place, but that is the movement, see. And, of course, we're the beneficiaries of that. So, other comments here? Okay, next slide. So here's the Tyndale's Bible. You can see it's in the older English style. Again, even the King James, when it's published so that the text looks like it was done with the quill pen, because that was what everybody did. See, it wasn't till actually the publication of the Geneva Bible that was done in more of what we'd call a modern, type of script for Latin, Latin letters. Okay, next slide. So, Tyndale doesn't. It's illegal to have these Bibles in England. So, Tyndale moves to Germany, prints the Bibles, and he smuggles them into England in sacks of corn and flour. Okay. Okay. This is, again, to get the Bible in the hands of the common man, this has been a long, tough process. I mean, it's, there's a lot of resistance to, obviously from the devil, but working through people to prevent the people from having the Bible. Phil?
Just a curiosity point, and I think I've heard this before, but margins so big on those Bibles. Would you have an explanation for that?
Yeah, I mean, the printing process is, pretty challenging. Printing's pretty new. Okay, and again, see, those pages are about that high by about that wide. Okay, and so when they set it up, they got to set it up so that they got room for error. And also, I don't know what particular problems a printer might have. See, because they have to have a wooden frame. Okay, got to have the wooden frame, and then they got to put a line of lead in there, and they got to put the letters. See, so you don't know what particular problems the individual printer is having with getting the frame and the frame size right either. See, today you just set your margin on your computer, and it fills you in there, and you don't think about it. There's Cliff. Okay, I think, when did you start Quick Copy, Cliff? About 1980? Not 1980. And I met Cliff actually through a phone call. We were, I had a sort of a typesetter that I used, and but I sold it, but I had it advertised. Cliff saw the advertisement, and so he called me, and I had just purchased an IBM deal that would actually had a tremendous memory on it. It would actually hold 9,000 characters. Now you can't even imagine what a step up that was. The one that I had previously, the one that Cliff had contacted me on, it was an IBM. It had a ball on it, but each, okay, in a normal typewriter, the letter M takes up the same space as the letter I. Okay, but when you go to printing, M's a lot thicker than an I. Okay, so when you're typesetting this stuff, okay, in say a Baskerville or a Romans type, okay, what I had to do on the machine that I had to type it through once. And when I got to the end, it gave me a setting, like blue 5 or green 3 or something like that. I had to mark that through down on that line. Okay, then I had to retype it. And at every line I had to, follow those marks. I had to set it, a blue 5 or green 3, and when I get done, the line would be justified. Okay? And see, even that was for the small guy who could actually afford that. Now, if you went down to the Bozeman Daily Chronicle in the year 1980, or thereabouts, maybe a few years earlier, you would actually see what was called a linotype. And up here they had hot metal, a little bit of antimony, learned from Gutenberg in it. And so down here, the guy is typing the article, okay? So he hits the letter T, boom, this chunk of metal drops into the mold, it cools quickly, and the T drops in, and it drops into the spot, because they got a set of type, it's lined up here so that the T goes in the right spot, okay? And then the U, and then the R, and the N, and then the space, and then the A, and the G, and the A, and I, and N. I don't know how turn again got into my mind. But, so when it got done, you had these letters, and the linotype was interesting. You could actually hear the metal ching, 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 coming in, dropping into space. That's a tremendous advance over what they're having to do. So those margins are going to be set based on, the printer's efficiency. Again, for us, it's tremendously easy. Randall?
My first job was at a local newspaper up in Wolf Point. That was in probably 1972. And they did their printing on a web press. Mm-hmm. And they had 2 linotype machines at that time. The gal that operated them was probably as old as the linotype machine, because that was probably something that was invented in 1880 or something like that. And they basically retired her and the machine about 2 years later.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yeah. See, so that gives you a perspective here. Sometimes it's hard for us to really process the tremendous digital revolution that we've gone through. Okay. See, so then in about 1981 or 82, then I purchased the Exponent. The college newspaper had a photographic film typesetter, and it was pretty cool because it'd do 72-point type. So that way Cliff isn't going to have to try to use his little headliner thing that he's got, to make headlines, and it was tremendous. The floppy disk could hold 188,000 characters. And so, I was going through some of my slides yesterday, as a matter of fact, trying, when I moved, I found stuff I didn't know I had, And, well, I had a flicker that was back there. But so I actually found presentations that I did, say, in 1983 or 84, on, say, the study books, the slide presentation. I actually had to do overheads. See, I actually printed those out on the photographic film of this machine that was a quick copy, later Bozeman Printing. And, it was a foot wide, and, I forget how much it cost a foot, but, it's pretty expensive. Matt, you used to, when Matt did some printing and stuff there too. So we'd actually typeset it, and then we'd use basically a knife, with beeswax on the back of it, and get it set in place, and then take pictures of it and print it from there. See, but again, those all represent significant advances. See, and then by about 1988, Macintosh came along, came a little bit more designed for, say production, printing, and photography, movies than say the PC machines. So, Quick Copy installed a laser printer and a Macintosh computer. Okay, and then those Macs had they had a 20 megabyte hard drive. See, and we were pretty convinced that we would never fill that up. I mean, when you figure out how many, I mean, we actually talked to, Cliff, do you remember us talking about, hey, you'd never fill that? Yep, Cliff's nodding his head. Yeah, you'd never fill that up in your lifetime, 20 megabytes. I mean, see, again, it's hard for us to process that, okay? 20 gigs is nothing, right, to now? I mean, well, you guys mostly got 256 gig hard drive. I got 128 gig flash drive I use. See, again, a gig is 1,000 megs, right? 1,000 megs is 1,000 Ks is 1 meg. See, and then 1,000 units is a K. See, we just started adding a lot of zeros, okay? And see, so it's hard for us to process how rapidly this thing is developed. See, so the first edition of Proof that the Bible is the Word of God and God's Plan of Salvation were typed on an Olympia typewriter with a ball, and were typed onto a kind of a set of film, and then it was put in slapped on a machine. You cranked like this, and the ink squeezed through the membrane onto the piece of paper. 100 copies of a proof and 100 copies of plan. That was the way that was first printed, with a typewriter, and I can't even remember what you called the mimeograph. That's right. See, that's how it's done. And we used to even do the church bulletins in church. Mel and Judy remember. Okay. But it was pretty poor quality by day standards, but that's what you had, so everybody, it's fine. It didn't. So, trying to process the tremendous work that they had to do to print, and recognizing what a significant advance that was over hand copying. Like I say, we just sit down today. How many of you guys got PCs at home or Macs or something? Okay, how many of you could type a, 2-column justified, little piece of paper, little article you want to write? How many of you could do that on your Mac or PC? Yeah, it'd do it all for you, right? Just tell you what you want, and there she is. Okay. Yeah. So, further questions here. Good question, Phil. Because it's we don't know what parameters the printer. So another thing I can tell you is every machine is different. And so let's say you purchase 2 of the same identical type of machines from somebody. They're going to have their different personality. They're going to have their different quirks. Okay. So once again, the printers involved, or the guys involved, they're going to know, okay, you know what, this machine should do this, but it's only going to do this. Okay. So we don't know what they're up against in that category too. Other questions? Okay. So again, he publishes part of the Old Testament. It's Tyndale, part of the Old Testament translated from Hebrew into English. Next slide. And then, what Tyndale's doing, is of course illegal, and Tyndale's going to pay the ultimate price for it. So Coverdale kind of has to, take over and make sure that this. So sometimes it'll be Tyndale/Coverdale Bible, but this is how you're getting the Bible into the hands of the common Englishman. And again, that's what we're focusing on in this section is how we got the Bible in English. We aren't focusing on how we got the Bible in Spanish. Okay, next slide. So there's see, and look at the tremendous amount of artwork that they did. Every one of these has to be hand carved. All that art has to be hand carved to be printed. You can't even, we can't even imagine anybody doing that much work today. See, and that type of attention to detail, Katie and I were having a discussion the other day. See, that type of attention to detail is being lost. Okay, and that's part of, that's part of why we start to have some of the production problems that we have today.
Actually, on a little bit of a related note, it actually makes me, I get hot about, you think all the work these guys did to be able to get it right. And it makes me hot, the paraphrases and all that stuff that are coming out. It's just total disregard for, it's I guess worse than not paying attention to detail. It's kind of, tremendous sacrifice that these guys put into this of finances and their blood, of their own blood, so that we could have the Word of God, word for word, in our language. And just gets me fired up about the imposters out there who those paraphrasers are becoming very popular.
Yep. Yeah, it seems like, okay, so, well, I'm going to end this presentation at the New American Standard. Okay, I'm not going to go into all the moderns, but from about 1970 on, we've started to have multiplicity of so-called translations. Some of them try to go for word. New American Standard, that they just tell you in front, they try to go for word. New King James, word for word. English Standard Version, sorta, a little bit further off. Holman Standard. Now you just get this mass of stuff that you can't even begin to process, because about every 10 years, publisher likes to come out with a new version, because there's a profit motive in there. But turn to Romans chapter 8. We're in a phone study Friday night, and somebody that was in the study, and they call in from, all over, call Michigan, South Carolina, California, all kinds of foreign countries, they call in from. And but in Romans chapter 8, verses 3 and 4, it says, "For what the law could not do, weak as it was through the flesh, God did, sending his own Son in the likeness of the sinful flesh, and as an offering for sin, he condemned sin in the flesh, so that the requirement of the law might be fulfilled in us who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit." Okay? So somebody was bringing it up that the New Living Translation says, when it gets down to verse 4 there, requirement of the law might be fulfilled for us. Just change one word. But see, if you're working on a Calvinist perspective here, and that you're always going to be a total rotten sinner, it's all you're ever going to be. You're depraved, saved by grace, but you're still depraved, saved but depraved. Then, okay, what are you going to do when you hit what it really says? You have to change it. See, fulfilled for us instead of in us. See, in us is quite a bit different than for us. See, so that's a great point there, Luke, on these you have to really watch them. And that's why, again, I primarily recommend the New American Standard, because it has a little bit less confusion for the modern English reader. And I don't like the 1995 as well as I like the 1977. And I really don't care for the 2020 NASB, okay? You can see them start to cave in to the pressures, like where it talks about brethren, say in the New American Standard, the 2020 version always says brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters. It's like, really? Well, why would they do that? Caving into pressure, right? Again, we've always understood that the masculine gender generally could be conclusive, okay? Mankind, includes women, believe it or not. And but now we're having to change that to humankind, see? And it gets me, you go to the airport. Will every person please keep charge of their luggage? I know that drives Judy nuts. Judy's old school. Every person keep track of his luggage, right? You don't get to have a singular noun or singular antecedent and in a plural pronoun. But see, because of the idea that can't be gender specific, the use of his to apply to women's offensive. Okay, do you see what they're doing to the language? They're destroying the language. See, because if you're going to destroy the culture, you also have to destroy the language. And so a lot of when these guys are caving in just to sell or do what they're going to think, sell the Bibles, then okay, they've gone away from those principles that Luke's bringing out. I did not return it to its authorized spot. Nick?
I have a two-part question. And maybe the first part you already answered, but it's when you look at how many translations we have in English, is it all pretty much profit motive, or is there other reasons? When you look at Russian has one translation, Spanish might have a couple, but that was going to be my second question is why is there only one, why is there only one in other languages, but also where do they translate that from? Because if I remember right, you guys have a difficulty with some of the Russian translations too.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that they're doing is they're taking the New Living, or not, the Living Bible, or no, the NIV. They're taking the NIV, New International Version, and they're using that as a basis to translate into these other languages. Okay, well, that creates problems. That's what we run into actually in Russia at some points, or in the Philippines. Some of the original. When I first went to the Philippines in 2002, Gary and I, we asked them, "Do you have Bibles in Ilocano?" Said yes. And okay, surprise. But they were good versions because they were translated from the American Standard. Okay, but some of the last times that I went up to about 2012, they were already starting to have more Filipino translations, based on the NIV. See, so you're losing now. You're losing stuff. See, so there's starting to be a bunch of those in these other languages too. And okay, is the Bible always easy to understand? No. Okay, the Apostle Paul can reason at a depth such that even the Apostle Peter would say, "Yeah, Paul, some of Paul's stuff's hard to understand," right? Okay, so what they try to do is they try to dumb the language down to make it easier to understand. But see, you're not understanding the words. What you're not understanding is the thought processes. And dumbing down the words doesn't actually aid in understanding the thought processes. So you see that kind of a drive, across the world in all the languages, is wherever they're publishing Bibles, is to dumb the language down. But you actually lose something when you do that. See, John's epistle and John's letters, they're in very simple Greek. Okay, and you can look at them, the words are pretty simple. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. Okay, are the concepts simple? No. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness didn't comprehend it. Whew, really? Okay, so it isn't the language problem, it's the thought processes, and that's where the translators, and, I've intersected with Pioneer Bible translators before, and some of the other guys that are, and I had some guy that was translating the Bible into the language for New Guinea, okay? And he told me, he says, when Jesus talks about if somebody asks for fish, you won't give him a snake, will you? And they said that's too difficult for them to understand. So they changed the wording, for, well, see, so the translators are also saying, okay, well, the people are too dumb to understand, so we got to redo this. Well, when you start redoing the scripture, so all the languages seem to have the same type of problem, just a little bit more multiplied in America because we're a very diverse culture, and we get a lot of diversity out there. Did I cover that one adequately?
Yeah, I know you already know this, but in the NASB 2020, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. Left out the word begotten because nobody uses that anymore, but begotten is the word of that verse, so you lose really important information when you start taking out words that we don't use anymore.
Yep. See, again, super great. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I did notice that. It's one of the first things I looked at. I said, okay, what are these guys going to do with the word begotten? I see you're on it too, so yes. But yeah, you lose information. See, most of the versions, they do John 3:16, God's one and only Son or something like. See, but begotten has to do with being fathered, resulting in a birth. And the old King James, Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob. See, begats. We kind of joke about the begats, right? But the verb is beget. Begat, begotten. See, well, because we don't use begat very much, they want to drop the word begot. There's no other word. See, it's going to bring out the concept that Jesus is from the Father, and this begottenness had to do ultimately with his resurrection from the dead. No other word. See, you drop that, okay, you lose something. So, further comments here?
If this will contribute or not, but it is a tremendous challenge. We were in Tagalog, the Philippine, the main language there of Luzon Island. A lot of the people that we're working with, the original Tagalog is a lot like people reading King James. Like they'll say, this is really deep, and you say, well, what do you mean deep? It's like really old. Like we don't use this anymore. And so I think there's two things going on. A lot of the translators then in a hurry will do something like instead of putting in the work these guys put in, to go back and put in the work, to do it right in a modern translation, but word for word, they will take like the NIV, the thought for thought, and kind of skip that work. And the other is, like you were saying, culturally across the world, people are being dumbed down through the education system where we don't understand, and I know you you do a great job pointing out, words are the carriers of logic. And so it's just, I think, two things going on, the cultural demise educationally, at the same time not wanting to put in some of the sacrifice and work to get it right and whatever. So
Yeah. Again, that's a great point, not wanting to put in the work of sacrifice to get it right. So that's why you got to be aware. It isn't that I'm anti-translations, but I want to be sure that they're accurate, and you have people that get confused because they're doing one of these modern half paraphrase and messing up their thinking.
Part of it might be a hardness of heart issue too. I think about, the writer of Hebrews says, we're going to talk about Melchizedek, but you're going to find it hard to understand. And he didn't say it was because it was that hard to understand. It was because you become dull of hearing. So I think the world culture is very open to being dumbed down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's a combination. God always holds Israel accountable, the people accountable in the Old Testament. The fact that they're being driven downward often by the kings, God still holds the people accountable, for exactly the reason you're pointing out. The prophets prophesy falsely, and my people love it so. That's the commentary by Jeremiah on that. So, okay. Next slide. So Tyndale is strangled, burnt at the stake, and his translation, formed the basis for about 80% of the King James Version. Next slide. So then you get the Matthew's Bible, published in, and it's the first Bible published with the king's permission, and 1537, pretty loosely translated. Next slide. It relies heavily on Tyndale's version as a tribute to Tyndale, or here's his Old English. That's a W and that's a T, in case you're wondering, okay. Next slide. So Cromwell entrusts Coverdale to revise the Matthew's Bible to make the Great Bible. Next slide. So the Great Bible is placed in every church. Now this is Church of England. See, Henry VIII already pulled the Catholic Church of England out from underneath the Pope and called it the Church of England, placed himself as the head. And now they're going to have one in every church, okay? And it's going to be read aloud. When we did the movie on the King James Bible, and John Rhys Davies, he said, these are designed to be read aloud, and he told you how he said, every church in the land, okay? Because it was designed to do that. They're designed to give you the echo effect. And if you ever attend an Episcopal wedding, okay, the Episcopal still uses, when they do the formal ones, they still use the English, the Book of Common Prayer. That's the Episcopal, and they'll stop, the Word of God. And then they'll read, Matthew chapter 25 or something, or Ephesians 5. See, that's their style, and it's designed to reverberate, so it's like God is talking to you. Next slide. So it's changed to the church pillars to discourage theft. Okay. Next slide. There's a picture of the Great Bible. Next slide. So Queen Mary, after Henry VIII died, remember Bloody Mary's Catholic, daughter of Catherine of Aragon, she bans the Protestant translations of the English Bible. John Rogers and Thomas Cranmer are burned at the stake. And 300 men, women, and children also burned. Next slide. The exiles from England flee to Geneva, Switzerland. In 1560, they print the Geneva Bible, which is a complete revision of the Great Bible with the Old Testament translated from the Hebrew. Now, this is the one that the Puritans inside the Church of England used, okay? And it's got all these notes on the side. And it's those notes on the side that James did not like, okay? Because it's basically I've got a facsimile of the Geneva Bible, and it's very interesting what it does to Acts 2:38. Because remember, these guys are baby sprinklers. Okay? And so, again, we got problems with Acts 2:38, no matter which way we go. Next slide. So it contains those theological notes from all the great scholars. That's going to be very helpful to you. Next slide. It's the first one to use that Roman type that I mentioned earlier. Okay? It's the Bible of Shakespeare and the one carried to America by the Pilgrims in 1620. See, and the 1640 edition is the first English Bible to omit the Apocrypha. See, because this time information's coming in, it's letting the scholars know that the Apocrypha was not used by the Hebrews. Okay? So they dropped the Apocrypha. Next slide. So here's the point here. The writers Philo and Josephus indicate. So they just drop it. And so by 1827, the Apocrypha is omitted for most English versions of the Bible. Catholics, of course, and any liberal scholars are going to retain the Apocrypha. Next slide. So there's some of the most common apocryphal books. Next slide. And so the Bishop's Bible begins, remember the Anglican bishops, they don't like the Puritans. And since they got the Geneva Bible, they're going to publish the Bishop's Bible. And that's the one that's a lazy translation. Next slide. So the Catholics got a response, so they published the Rhymes Dewey, or sometimes Dewey Rhymes Bible in So it's going to become the standard translation for Catholic Church. Again, early on, and when I first started preaching, the Douay-Rheims was the version still used by Catholics. Okay, if they used one. Next slide. So, of course, King James takes in hand to get a new version. Next slide. So it's called the Authorized Version. The idea is supposedly that King James authorized it. He actually never put his final signature on the deal. Okay, so I don't know if they got paid or not. And it undergoes some revisions. Next slide. Of course, we start getting the, information from the Alexandrian stream, in addition to the Byzantine stream. Next slide. So the King James is going to be revised a little bit. This 1769 revision is basically what, if somebody's got a King James version today, they've got the 1769 King James. You have a very difficult time reading the 1611. Next slide. So then, of course, they discover the Sinaiticus in 1859. Okay, again, that's part of the Alexandrian stream. Next slide. There's a copy of the Codex Sinaiticus. It's a complete Greek, almost a complete Greek New Testament. That's what a codex is. Next slide. Okay, and again, they decide to revise the King James Version based on that. And the result of this revision then is the, it's the revised version in England. When it comes to America, it's the American Standard of 1801. Okay, so basically, for most of America's history, early on you had the Geneva Bible, but before long, the King James Bible becomes standard. And then with the publication of the American Standard in 1901, you had the first modern type translations. See, when Ed Bousman used to preach, he said, I use the American Standard Version of 1901. All the scholars I trust told me it's the most accurate version. And so, since that's the version the Apostle Paul would have used, that's the version that I'm quoting, okay? And so, I always call myself Timothy, and so I use the New American Standard. But so that's the basis for. Then, of course, so we get all kinds of the liberal scholars. They got to start producing their versions. Then we're going to get the New King James. We're going to get the Living Bible, which was a total travesty, by Kenneth Taylor. About the same time, the New American Standard. See, about 1970, you started getting in the late 70s, and then you just keep getting more and more and more and more. Like I say, you can't even keep track of them now. So there's your history of the English Bible and how you got what you got in your paws, okay, or on your cell phone as a case. Think what a revision. I mean, okay, Matthew grabs his cell phone and he does the NASB 2020. He says this is what it says. If he wanted to look at the NIV, he can see what it says. Revised Standard Version, Holman. I don't forget how many versions that they got on here. I mean, it's incredible what this is. If I want to try to piece some alphas and some betas together, I look at the Greek New Testament. Okay, just tremendous. What's here? So that's probably why the confusion factors are at work too. I mean, the devil knows, okay, anybody that's got a smartphone anywhere in the world has access to the Bible, many of them in their own language. I mean, you start looking, Ruskaya, is on here, okay? Apparently something's called Chinese. Looks like Chinese. I mean, all these versions people can have right here in their hands. You see what God has done? He's leaving everybody on this planet without excuse. If they want to go after the truth, they can get it. See, but they're going to have to want it. See, the more confusion you have, the more desire the individual has to have for truth. See, and that's what our job is. See, we're not trying to get everybody in this church building. I mean, it'd be really nice, okay? 120,000 people on the church grounds, almost matching the day of Pentecost, you know, that'd be great, okay? Realistically, we know that's not going to happen. You know, there few find the narrow way, according to Jesus. Okay. Well, what is our mission? Our mission is to find truth seekers. That's our mission, truth seekers. Mission isn't to try to get the whole neighborhood here on, you know, the whole Nelson Road community into the church building, because if you build it, they'll come. Yeah, that is not our mission. Our mission is to find truth seekers. See, and that's why we need to continue to be scattered throughout the community and doing everything we can, you know, sowing seeds, you know, living trails of breadcrumbs. You know, however we do that, see, so that the truth seeker, because the truth seeker will pick that up and will follow it. See, everybody else will ignore the trail of breadcrumbs. And the truth seeker say, what? I'm interested in this. See, and they'll follow it. That's our job. And that we just got to remember that's our job. And does everybody that gets immersed, do they stay with it? No. Well, there's a lot of pressures. A lot of pressures to turn away. You see that in the scriptures. And we just got to understand the process here and recognize what our job is. So.